In this weather update, we're forecasting the severe weather threat in the Great Plains going into Friday and into this weekend on Saturday and maybe even into Sunday, and also the tropics. There's still activity out there after Lee. All of that and more is coming right up. All right, welcome back into another more weather forecast video. My name is Beckett Moore, and I'm back here in the weather studio. In my last update, we were talking about Hurricane Lee, which was in the Atlantic, and it did affect portions of New England, not majorly, but it did provide pretty significant impacts to parts of Nova Scotia with some minor storm surge and a lot of power outages. But a lot of that has been healed at this point, and we have pretty much moved past Lee, and now we are looking at a severe weather threat as we are kind of entering that second severe weather season into the fall. The first one would be in the spring into early summer, but that one felt like it just kept on going. We've had a break since August pretty much of severe weather, and now it looks like we may be transitioning into that second fall severe weather season, which thankfully usually isn't as significant as the one in the spring. But let's get straight into the forecast. Looking at the Day 3 categorical outlook for Friday, and we do have a slight risk of severe weather into southern South Dakota, into central Nebraska, and north central Kansas. So 2 out of 5, slight risk for severe weather. All severe hazards are possible with scattered severe storms on Friday in this region, and the placement of this slight risk could change, and also we could see that upgrade to an enhanced risk, which we will have to watch here as well. So let's time out this slight risk for severe weather. This is looking at around 1 p.m. here on Friday. So going into 1 p.m. here into 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., we are going to see some storms spark off, causing cloud cover and raininess across portions of South Dakota, such as Rapid City in the Black Hills. This won't be very severe. And again, we are looking a couple days out, so the better resolution models will have a better grip on this by tomorrow and into, of course, on Friday. By the time we go into here around 6 p.m. and into 7 p.m., we are likely going to see some sort of bowing segment of storms going through central South Dakota. Now, the exact placement of this is questionable. We aren't going to know for fact if this is what's going to happen, because this is an AM3 model. This has less runs than the HRRR model, but the HRRR doesn't go as far out. Within the HRRR, if you didn't know, is a better resolution model. So this is just what to look at, a general idea of what could happen on Friday and give us some hints of what to expect. So going into late Friday night, so this is around 8 p.m. into 9 p.m. and here into 10 p.m. we are going to see that bowing segment of storms, so damaging winds, hail, and a couple embedded circulations in these bowing segments. We see this a lot up here in the northern Great Plains, where we see these bowing segments of storms we see those embedded areas of circulation and possibly tornadoes. So that's going to be an area of storms that we are going to have to watch very closely if this verifies. And then going into around 10, 11, and here into 12 a.m. early on Saturday, that kind of fizzles out. We are going to have to watch for supercell development down into Nebraska and South Dakota. This is where we could see that strong tornado threat with these discrete supercells developing late Friday, possibly into early morning Saturday. So damaging winds is those bowing segments of storms, and then possible supercells developing. So late Friday into early Saturday, you really do need to be watching out for severe weather into southern South Dakota, into Nebraska, and into north central Kansas there. If you have Friday night football plans, any outdoor plans on Friday, and you're in that region with a slight risk, make sure you're tuning in to the weather forecast. You're watching the radar if you're outdoors. If you come under a warning, severe thunderstorm warning, or tornado warning, make sure you go indoors, seek shelter immediately, because we likely are going to have a lot of those Friday night in this region from South Dakota into Nebraska and into northern Kansas, so make sure you are prepared for that. Now, looking at another angle for this Friday afternoon into night severe weather setup is these photographs, as well as with the CAPE. The CAPE is the juice for the storms. It's the convective available potential energy, and we do have a good amount of it to see those storms pop off here into South Dakota, Nebraska, and into Kansas. And with the photographs, there's a lot about photographs that I don't understand, but I do understand that when we see curved photographs, there is that heightened tornado threat. That's why we are seeing the SPC saying that all severe hazards are possible. One of those severe hazards is tornadoes. They're saying that a couple of tornadoes cannot be ruled out. A couple of tornadoes are actually very possible if we see supercells develop and start rotating, as we will have a pretty strong low-level jet. We're going to have these curving photographs, meaning that we will have the ingredients in place if supercells form for tornado formation. So a couple of tornadoes, again, are possible, especially in this region, into southern South Dakota, into Nebraska. So really be on guard. Again, it's only a slight risk for now. It could get upgraded, but we want to focus on is that tornado threat, hail threat, and wind threat that you really need to be prepared for if you're in that region. So that's just another look at it, another little factor that you can look at. But in general, just be on guard for severe weather in that region that I just outlined on Friday night into early Saturday morning. You might get woken up and have a good way to get woken up by those severe weather warnings. Now, looking into Saturday, the threat area shifts to the east, and this is a pretty big slight risk for now of severe weather, including Des Moines, Iowa, and Kansas City, Missouri, as well as Tulsa, Oklahoma. So major population centers included in this big 15% or slight risk for severe weather. So another threat of severe weather on Saturday. We will have good moisture. We likely will have good CAPE. We likely will have a good low-level jet in place on Saturday. So raininess and severe weather. You need to be prepared for that. Des Moines, Kansas City, down through Tulsa. Now, we don't have a lot of details on this yet, but just stay tuned to the forecast. Keep monitoring those updates from your local news meteorologist, from the National Weather Service, from me if you want, but I'm not the best option. And continue to monitor those forecasts. So if you do have those outdoor Saturday plans in this region, and this is going to shift and likely be possibly be upgraded. So again, continue to monitor that if you have any outdoor plans on Saturday in this region throughout the Great Plains into that Midwestern central United States, into Iowa and Missouri. Now, this is another angle that we're going to look at for both days, Friday and Saturday. This shows the low-level jet, which is needed mostly for tornado development. So Friday night, Friday night into early Saturday morning, we do have a pretty strong low-level jet throughout South Dakota, into Nebraska, and into Kansas. So we are going to have that in place, as we do have a pretty strong system coming through the middle of the United States. And then going into Saturday, we do continue to see that strong low-level jet throughout Missouri, up through Iowa, and down through Oklahoma. So tornadoes are going to be something to watch out for. Not trying to scare you guys, I'm just trying to prepare you guys that tornadoes, unlike yesterday's threat, are going to be a threat that we're going to have to watch out for. Again, severe winds, damaging winds, and hail are going to be the main threats, but that tornado threat will be a threat to continue to monitor and watch out for. Now, the chances of a tornado coming down your street, very low. You just want to know that that is possible and be prepared for that if that is going to happen. So make sure you go over your tornado preparedness plans, especially as we are going into the second severe weather season. Now, let's switch gears, now that we've talked about that severe weather threat, to look at the tropics. And right now in the tropics, Lee is gone. Nigel is up here in the middle of the Atlantic. That's going to be a fish storm, so I'm not going to talk about that. But we do have a 70% chance of cyclone formation in the next 7 days with a tropical wave near the Cabo Verdes Islands. And this is going to develop in the next 7 days, going across the Atlantic towards the Lesser Antilles. So 7 days, that's a long time. Still, a lot of things are going to change. But this is something that we're going to have to watch very closely if we're in the Lesser Antilles and even into the Caribbean. We're going to have to, continue to keep an eye on it if we're in the United States. But for right now, not a direct threat. But if we do see that development, if we do see a strong storm form here like Lee did, we are going to have to watch that if we're over here into the Eastern Caribbean, into Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, down into the Lesser Antilles, because if this storm does develop, it's likely that if it goes on this track, which is what's shown by the models right now, we are going to see significant impacts for the Eastern Caribbean. Now, that's going to change. We're going to see changes that could not happen. That's a likely thing that could not happen, but it also is something that could happen, so make sure you're prepared there. And could this affect the United States coast? It's possible, but we're way too far out. You're going to see hype already with these 384-hour model runs showing a significant hurricane hitting the United States. Is it possible that this could affect the United States? Way far out? Yes, that's possible, but we don't really need to talk about that right now because that's way into the future. And then the second area we're watching is this 40% chance of development over here off the eastern coast of the United States, off the eastern coast of Florida. If this develops into anything, if it does, it's probably going to be only a tropical depression or possibly a subtropical storm, so nothing too significant. The only impacts we're really going to see this weekend into early next week are strong winds, heavy rain, coastal flooding into the Carolinas, into the mid-Atlantic region, from the Delmarva up into New Jersey and into Long Island. Now, looking at this furthermore with the Weather Prediction Center's outlook, 120-hour precipitation. So this is the precipitation we're expecting for now through Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and through Long Island down through South Carolina, northern South Carolina. We do have that chance for 2 to 4 inches of rain. That's meaning that we're going to possibly see some flash flooding and some coastal flooding as this storm kind of idles off the coast there, causing a dreary, blustery, windy weekend and early next week for that mid-Atlantic region. And that about wraps up this more weather forecast video. Make sure you subscribe and go follow me on Twitter. Be prepared for that severe weather on Friday and Saturday in the central United States against blustery and rainy weekend across the southeastern and coastal southeastern United States and mid-Atlantic region. Stay prepared out there, and I will see you soon with more weather.